What was she thinking? She's making a huge mistake. Is she stupid? I bet she regrets selling her van.
Anna Uncharted. What is going on?
So why did I quit van life? Let's talk about it. I've been avoiding answering this question for about 8 months now. 8 months ago is when I sold my van, and it's not because I don't have a good answer for you. Actually, I have so much that I could say, so much that I want to say. It's just putting it all into words. I'm finding that my brain is on the verge of breaking, and we haven't even started yet. So, can't guarantee that we're going to end on the same page, but maybe we can start on the same page. So, van life. It's just a type of lifestyle. If you're watching this from your house, would you say that you're living house life or the house life? Probably not. A van is just a type of dwelling that a person can choose to live out of. But then again, see, it's already getting messy because we also know that the people who tend to find themselves living out of a van or a vehicle, they exist on a spectrum, right? And on one end, you've got people who maybe find themselves living out of vehicles not because they necessarily want to, but because life circumstances don't really give them any other option. And then you've got people who are living out of vans for the specific and very intentional reason of saving money or needing or wanting to get out of the rent cycle, escape the rent cycle, or they just have no interest in getting tied up in a mortgage with really high interest rates. And then you've got further along on the spectrum, people who just want to try it and they can afford it and they want to. You've got people who are living out of vans because it aligns with their hobbies and their interests, especially when it comes to the outdoor community for surfers and rock climbers and hikers, etc. And then you've got people who maybe have really well-paying jobs and it ties in with their preference for a nomadic lifestyle. And then on the very, very, very far end, you've got people who want to live out of vans and they kind of become known for it. Listen, if there is something inside of you that just can't rest until you have had a taste of van life and you are determined to make it happen, even if you don't have a lot of money, even if you have no idea where to start, but you have that conviction, then I have no doubt that it's gonna happen for you if it hasn't already. I think there's something about our deepest desires that tend to point us in the right direction because it probably means it's meant to be a part of our life path or something we're meant to do or something we're meant to experience in this lifetime, maybe something we're meant to learn. I don't know, but so long as we're persisting in that conviction, in that feeling inside of ourselves, it's just a matter of time. Essentially, that's how it happened for me. I just knew I was going to end up in a van. So this was over 4 years ago now at this point, when I learned, hey, wait, you can live out of a van? And I remember going for a walk off by myself in nature somewhere, and I remember talking out loud, and I said something like, hey yo, Daddy Universe, Mama Cosmos, listen up. I want to live out of a van. How are we gonna make this happen? And I was willing to do anything. I was willing to pick up a second job. I was willing to pick up a third job. I was willing to mop floors and work graveyard shifts. I was willing to build my van out in parking lots and watch random YouTube videos from strangers to learn new skills. And all of those things did happen. All of those things I did end up doing. But I remember finishing that conversation by just saying, if you have any resources that you can contribute, I would greatly appreciate it. And that's when weird, strange stuff started to happen. So I had the conviction, I had made up my mind, and so I got a second job, and it just so happened that a girl I started to work with was already living out of a van. We started working together, I got to pick her brain, I got to tour her van, and I thought, this is interesting. And then I got a third job, and I met someone who had already done a van build, who had already lived out of a van, who offered their help. And I thought, this is interesting. And it took about 2 months for me to find the van that I ultimately ended up with, but it was my favorite color. It was right within my price range, and I said, okay, we're doing this. And there were just a lot of interesting, or maybe not so coincidental, synchronicities that were happening along the way. I remember right after I bought my van, COVID happened, and you would think that that would just be this terrible, awful thing. But I remember receiving those COVID relief stipends in my bank account kind of just like clockwork, right as I was getting to the next step of my van build. And I thought, this is weird. It feels a little bit like I'm being paid to do this thing. I just have to supply the blood and the sweat and the tears and all of the work. Looking back, I can say that it was the process that was the most fun and the most fulfilling, and I wouldn't take it back for the world. So it's a misguided question to ask, why would someone live out of a van? I think the better question, or the best question to ask, is what does van life represent? And what I mean by that is, what is the feeling, or what are the feelings associated behind the word itself? For me, van life represented freedom and adventure and escape and possibilities and opportunities and the chance to fulfill a dream. I remember before I even got my van, I would picture myself sitting behind the wheel, feeling at peace and feeling content, and this was enough fuel to fire me up and just get me to do it. So yeah, van life was never the end goal for me. It was always about the process. It was always about the hero's journey. I have a theory. Do you want to hear it? Okay, great. There's this guy named Joseph Campbell who coined the term hero's journey. You already know what it is. It is why we are obsessed with superhero stories, why we love and are attracted to really great storytelling. My theory is that we are either consciously or unconsciously always in the process of some sort of hero's journey or heroine's journey. Joseph Campbell describes a hero's journey as this external search, and one of his students said, well, hey, wait a minute, what about a heroine's journey, which is more associated with an internal search? And for me, in terms of what van life represented, it was just this awesome journey, this awesome adventure to have both an external search to learn about the world around me and simultaneously have this internal search where through the process I learned so much about myself as well. And I think our deepest desires and the things that we're attracted to in life, the things that we want out of life, just kind of nudge us and push us towards having our own personal hero's journeys and heroine's journeys. But I don't know. It's just a theory. All right, don't fall asleep on me now. We are in the home stretch. I have a final question for you. What is the difference between living or camping out of a van versus a car? Well, it's just the size of the vehicle, right? Okay, so for a very brief moment, years and years ago, I actually tried to entertain or tried to imagine getting a Honda Element for the exact purpose of camping and living out of one instead of a van. But at the time, I just didn't know enough about Honda Elements, and frankly, I didn't think that it would be enough space for me. Mostly, I just didn't think that I could do it. But now, having had my van life experience, I feel more confident that I can do it, and there's this huge part of me that wants to take that challenge on. Weird, I know. But I would just say that I tend to make decisions based off of my priorities and my goals, and because of van life, my priorities and my goals have shifted. That isn't much of a surprise. I am taking classes again, and I have volunteer opportunities and seasonal job opportunities that I am excited about. There is international travel in my future, and I've been prioritizing spending a lot more time with family. And so for me, as much as I love being in Canada and on the West Coast, my family is mainly based out of the Midwest. And so for me, it just makes more sense to have a vehicle that can be a part-time rig that I can live out of seasonally for all of my adventures and hiking and things that I just really enjoy doing. But it also just helps so much to have something that can double as a daily driver. So that's how Mango essentially happened. It just fits. It is me. I love this car. Oh, and I almost forgot. Lastly, we need to mention the Land Cruiser. Okay, so I thought that I was going to get a 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser as my next rig. They are awesome vehicles, and I did everything in my power to try and get my hands on one, but it was just not meant to be. It was not meant to work out. The one that I had set my sights on ended up being delayed by over 2 months, and during that time I was able to sober up and come to the realization that it did not match my long-term goals. Now is not the time. I have plenty of life left, hopefully, so maybe it's a future dream that can come true, but in the words of Billy Joel again, my idol, he would just probably say, dream on, but don't imagine they'll all come true. And that's okay. Okay, that's all I got for you. I am all talked out. Thank you so much for tolerating my rambly personality. I hope that this was informational. I hope that it was helpful or enlightening, slightly entertaining, possibly. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one. You got this, you got this, you got this. So much talking. Oh my gosh. My brain hurts. There's a reason I've been putting this off for 8 months. Something. Yeah, okay. Bye.